Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Knox Makers. It's Tuesday night, and for us that means one thing. It means it's time for show and share. We invite folks from the Knox Makers community and from the larger Knoxville community to join us here in our classroom and share projects that they've been working on. Successful projects, as well as stalled out projects and complete abject failed projects. Whatever it is, whatever the status of it is, we're thrilled to learn about what you've got going on. Give us 3 minutes about the topic of your choice. We have a list here of folks who have generously brought in projects to share with us, and we're going to start out with Neil, who has brought in an apple bowl.
Well, every week, they usually make the comment about bring in not only your successes but your failures, and I finally have a failure to show. Yeah, I know, hard to believe. But Karen and I were invited by her cousins to go down to Georgia this weekend to spend a few nights, and I figured, gee, it'd be nice if I brought something along, like maybe a salad bowl type thing or a fruit bowl type thing or whatever. So, and I haven't turned anything really large lately, so I figured, okay, I can knock this out fairly quickly. Famous last words. So I had these large pieces of maple from a tree that was cut down in my neighbor's, or actually fell down in my neighbor's yard. And for those of you who've taken the wood turning classes know that one of the things that's prominent in the first class is the grub. And if you haven't taken the class, you won't fully understand that. But the grub came from this tree, and so it's somewhat of a of an interesting story behind that wood also. So I found the right piece of wood, prepared it, got it on the lathe, and I started turning. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's some cracks in this. Well, maybe I can turn them out. I'll just make the bowl a little bit smaller. So I started turning away the cracks. Then there were some other things in there, like pinhole borers, these little worms and beetles that put little holes in. I'm thinking, okay, well, it can't be a salad bowl. I'm not going to give them something that they're going to put salad in and then start finding little worms crawling all over it. But maybe it'd still be an okay fruit bowl. I'll finish it with something that would seal it. And that didn't work out too well, because as I turned away more wood, there were some more defects that just didn't look good and appetizing as something you'd put edibles in. So I decided, okay, well, I'll put some sort of a nice finish on it, and it'll be just a decorative bowl. The nice finish didn't quite look so nice, so I decided, well, I've always wanted to try scorching a piece, and where you take a torch and get some burn marks on it and then sand it away and finish it. So I started trying to scorch this wood, had it spinning at a slow speed on the lathe, had the propane torch close to it. This wood doesn't burn. So that was another, okay, what else? One of the things that we teach in the class and repeat it often, every time you make a mistake or something doesn't work out the way you want it to, just look at it as a new design opportunity. So, and that's what I was doing all day today, was looking at new design opportunities for this piece. But one thing I didn't want to give up on it, because the wood is, it's pretty. It's maple. This is the bottom here. Let's see if I can go a little bit wider. And I liked what I was seeing, so I didn't want to just chuck it in the burn pile. Not that it burns, as I discovered. And, but being as hot as it is these days, I can only put in maybe 2 hours in my workshop, which is not air conditioned, and then I got to take a break for a while, and I took a break, which is something else we teach in the classes too, which is, okay, if you're having a bad day, walk away from it for a while, because maybe your mind just isn't in it and you just aren't working very well. And if you walk away and come back and it's still bad, then just give it up for the day. I didn't give it up, which is what I should have done, but anyway. So I started turning, finished the bottom. I liked how the bottom looked, at least for no other reason than the bottom wouldn't be seen very much because it was the bottom. And then I decided, okay, now I'll start hollowing it out and make a bowl. Well, standing in this hot workshop for 2 hours, and I started hollowing it out, and I finally came to the realization I'm pretty stupid sometimes, that I won't give up on something. And so I got this little bit of a depression here, and said, this is interesting. And I like the little bit of spalting that's in here. It still looked nice, so I didn't want to completely give up on it. And finished it off with the same finish. Oh, and that was the other problem too. I used a walnut oil and beeswax finish on it. For some reason, the beeswax got sticky, and I had to sand it all off and wipe it all up and start all over again. So that was another failure. So with this one little depression on there, I decided I don't want to do any more on this thing. This has already been too much. And it is now to be considered as a one apple bowl. Any questions?
I predicted that when I saw that exhibit. I said, hey, it's great for a single piece of fruit, an apple or an orange, so the bugs can't get into it.
And that's why I titled it An Apple Bowl, as just Apple Bowl. Anybody else?
You know why it wouldn't burn?
Do what?
You know why it wouldn't burn?
Just because nothing else was working the way I wanted it to today. Otherwise, I've burned plenty of maple in the past, but it just wouldn't scorch. And I brought the torch right up to it. I wanted to start at the top of the rim, scorch it dark, and then go lesser at the bottom, so it just like fade out or fade in, whatever. It just wouldn't scorch. So I don't know why. I will pass this around, not the apple, that's for me for later. I will pass it around with one caveat: it's heavy. The other options I thought of as far as it being an apple bowl is a really attractive doorstop, but so it is heavy, and you might want to be careful as you pass it around to the next person. And that's it. Thank you.
I admire your perseverance, sir. I'm starting to think that you and Russell have got some sort of a Hatfield McCoy thing going on here, though. Next up, we've got Kristen, who has brought in a folding cart table to share with us.
Hi everyone, my name's Kristen. I'm a new member, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to show you all my most recent project. If you saw Jason's swinging doors, the saloon doors, this was in the same vein for the same project. I wanted to give our festival camp a little more flavor, make it a little more saloony, so I thought of like a wooden card table would help with that. Let's see. The primary material I started using was tongue and groove flooring, and the tutorial or write-up that I saw someone make a table out of this had a lot better access to resources than I did. When I started trying to find this flooring, I very quickly realized that it's not always in 8-foot boards. It's never in 8-foot boards around here. So I wasn't gonna have a uniform length to run the length of the table and make not like one nice clean cut on the end and have it square. It wasn't in the cards for me, pun intended. So I had to work with what I had and what I was able to get. Side note, it was a very inexpensive material. I was able to get the flooring boards for $1 a square foot at Southeast Salvage, which was lovely. And I have a lot of it left, so you'll probably see it a lot more. So this is the first picture I actually took during making it. That's after I had already gotten it glued together and cut square and had the skirt put on it by that point. And that is when that is like the picture right before I had a lot of great design opportunities present themselves to me. The first of which, since I did do a diagonal since I only had a few long boards, that was one way I got around not having all long boards. I decided to put a face trim on it. And I cut the face trim with the board laying the wrong way, which ended up being a lot better than having the face trim longer than the top. It sits fairly flush now, so that was a good opportunity. And then when I went to go put on the face frames, I originally tried pocket holes, but the pocket holes were tearing out because the board was too thin. So I tried like a couple of different things of like putting a spacer in between the board and the jig so it won't tear out the side of it, but then it wasn't deep enough into the board. It was just, when I tried to put the screw in, it was tearing out the pocket hole itself. And by this point, I already have some wood glue on there, so I've got to figure it out, and I do not have time to run to Home Depot. What I ended up doing, I had some brad nails, but they weren't long enough to go through the side, so I brad nailed diagonally through the top, and then later had to use like a finishing hammer to hammer them down, and I used some wire cutters to cut off what I could of them. And it is smooth. I've tested all of the ones there. No one's been cut by it, but that was definitely not ideal. But I'm pretty proud of it. The legs are a little bit less stable because they aren't attached to the skirt and they do fold. Let's see. There's a picture of it folded up before I got the finish on it, and that's what it looked like. Okay, this is very bright. That was the finish, but I do have the real thing here, so you can see. I don't know if you want to come look at it afterwards. Yes.
Since we have a lathe, did you turn the lathes?
No, so this was made all in my garage, and another thing I had to tackle was not having a table saw while making this. So everything was cut with a circular saw or a miter saw, and the table legs were just purchased. The nifty part about this is that the legs do fold up under it, and that's from some nice double locking hinges that I found on Amazon. The original guide I had followed had just used some fence hinges, but it wasn't very secure at all, according to him. And so I tried to find a better solution, and I feel like I did that.
What do you call those hinges? Double lock?
A double lock hinge, yeah, because it locks open and close. It was really, when I got them and I was holding them before installing them, it was very difficult to open or close them. But as soon as I put them on, now they open and close a lot easier. Are there any?
You just started this last week, is that right?
Not last week. I finished it last week. I started maybe 3 weeks ago, but it was all last minute, trying to get it done before the event. The poly seal on it's a bit thick because I only had time for one coat. But it was done, and it did its job.
You say you did this in your garage, why didn't you use this stuff out here?
I did not have access to it at that point in time. I am a brand new member.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited to get to play with those now. So. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Really swell. Thank you for sharing. Next up, we've got Steve, who has brought a wheelchair ramp to show us.
If I can make it show what I need it to see. My sister-in-law has become wheelchair bound, and they'd recommended that she get outside to on the deck. And the problem is that this threshold from the kitchen onto the deck is about 1.5 inches high on the inside and 2.5 inches high on the outside. So my brother and I sat down and put together a ramp which involved taking 3 pieces of 2x6, screwing them together and cutting the angles and the cutout for the threshold, and then as you can see, this side is considerably shorter than this side. So this was cut off with a bandsaw. Yeah. Oh, come on. I can just see what I'm doing here. So there's what it looks like in place, and it works very. This is just 2x6 sides and 1/4-inch ply surface to roll her wheelchair out onto the deck. Just quick and dirty. I think it took us about 2 hours one afternoon to do that.
It looks kind of steep. Is it steep, or is that just the angle that we're looking at?
It's relatively steep, but it's about 1.5 feet on each side, on inside and outside. Or it's probably
1 or 2 inch rise. 1 or 2 inch rise.
yeah. But my brother said that he could pull the wheelchair back and get the front wheels over the threshold, but then when he had to pick up the back, that Beth felt like she was falling out. So this was just a quick and dirty solution for problem.
Nicely done. Thank you for your share. Finally, we've got Andrew, who has brought a Pictosaurus to share.
Oh, yeah.
Hello again, everybody. This is another version of what you saw last week. I've added an additional flexible neck, so I can adjust it from horizontal or vertical imaging, so I can change it to the needs that I need. In addition, I've made it more of a modular design, so I can adjust the height as needed. And I've also cut in ventilation holes because I don't want my wood to catch on fire due to the CPU, because these Raspberry Pis, they do run hot. So it's a good idea not to catch on fire. I don't know what else I'm going to do with it. I don't know. I think this project may stall. I don't know. I haven't worked on it in a little bit. It's like, I don't know. So we'll see how this goes. So, go ahead. It takes pictures. The idea is that my mom, she had a bunch of physical pictures laying around, right? I'm like, well, I want digital copies of these. Like, I don't do physical pictures at all. So I want digital copies, and I want to put them all in a photo frame, in a digital photo frame eventually. And so the idea is trying to, on a small scale, industrialize converting the physical pictures into digital files. And so I found the hardware to do it. It's just I got to find the time and the actual money to actually do that. So it's going to take some time. And so work in progress. So anything else?
How many pictures have you digitized?
Not a one. I'm just trying to get things perfect as per usual and do it all at once. And so, yeah, that's what I'm up to right now. So,
When you say all at once, are you like gonna feed it the photos?
I'd like to. Yeah. I want to try and do a production line kind of thing. I actually found a hat that will pretty well do, or a Raspberry Pi hat that'll do pretty much all the motorization that I need. It's just, again, finding the time and money to actually do it. So, it is what it is, I guess. So, yeah, that's about it. So, anything else?
Show us the next iteration next week.
I'll try if I find the time or the money to actually do it.
It's always fun to watch a project evolve. I'd like to encourage you all to help me in your support of Andrew by consuming a great many popsicles. Did anybody else bring a share tonight that didn't make the list? Okay. I have just a couple of announcements I want to share with you. On Saturday, July the 13th at 1 p.m., we have a smocking class in the Fiber Arts section at 1 p.m., which Thea is guiding us in. And when I looked, there was still one ticket available. So if you would like to learn about that, here is your chance. Also, I would like to remind you that next Thursday, which is July the 18th at 7 p.m., we're having a new member onboarding session. So if you're currently a trial member, or if you're thinking about being a trial member, or if you just want to hang out with some new trial members, then come join us Thursday at 7 p.m. for a new member onboarding. We do not have any other classes currently coming up in the next week, so instead I will take the opportunity to remind you that you too can teach classes. Perhaps like me, you think that you're mediocre at best at stuff, but remember that you are infinitely better at things than people who haven't tried them yet, and people really, really like introductory classes. So if you know how to do a thing even kind of halfway all right, and you'd be willing to teach a class, then get with the czar of the appropriate zone, or come meet the board, and let's think about getting that thing put together. Finally, although it's a little bit further out, I'm excited. I want to remind you that on Tuesday, July the 23rd, we're planning to do a cookout. That's always a good time. So we'll have burgers and dogs, and if you would like to bring things too, you can do that. Or you can just bring your appetite and hang out with us and eat foods. That is always a good time. It looks to me like that the filters throughout Bay 2 are wretchedly clogged. So would someone perhaps volunteer to replace those air filters for us tonight? You, sir. Thank you very much. And if you should encounter a trash can that has not been emptied for whatever reason, if you wouldn't mind taking that out to the dumpster, that would be super cool. Otherwise, I want to encourage you all to go out in the workshop, hang out, make weird stuff, have a good time. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight.